welcome everyone for today's webinar on Shoreline Community College hosted by MSM. And I welcome all our attendees who have joined through Facebook and who will be viewing the entire webinar later. MSM is super excited to partner with Shoreline for a long time now, and we want to ensure that all our MSM affiliated agents get a glimpse of what Shoreline has to offer. And when I say what Shoreline has to offer, Shoreline has so much to offer in terms of program, in terms of the opportunities that students have on campus. So the list is endless, and I'm very excited about this session today. And our attendees are in the process of joining the webinar. In the meanwhile, on behalf of Shoreline and MSM, I hope you, your families, your students, and your colleagues are all safe and you are all getting vaccinated. Yes, and thank you for joining from different parts of the world. So we have, agents from Nigeria, from India who have joined. So thank you so much for taking out time and joining today. My name is Sheena, and I'm the Senior Manager, Global Marketing Office. I oversee US institutions, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. And I'm delighted and pleased to introduce today's facilitator, Mr. Andrew Hull, who is the Associate Director of Marketing and International Outreach. A hearty welcome to you, Andrew, for joining the webinar. And I know it's an early morning, so thank you so much for accommodating time for today's session. Yeah, so before I hand over the mic to Andrew, I will run through the housekeeping requirements that are necessary for today's session. So as a reminder, everyone is on mute, and I would encourage whatever are your questions, please do post them in the Q&A tab, which is available in the control panel. Later, once the presentation is over, you will have an opportunity to interact, ask as many questions as you want. We want the session to be very lively, so ask your questions and I will help reach out and answer all your queries. In case you're facing any difficulties, any technical challenges, please feel free to drop out your messages in the chat box. This recording will be posted on the YouTube channel as well after this. So for taking not taking much of your time, we'll get started with this presentation. So over to you, Andrew. Let's get started. And I can see a lot of participation already. A lot of people have already joined. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Yep, thank you, Sheena. As she mentioned, my name is Andrew Hall. I'm the Associate Director of International Outreach and Marketing here at Shoreline Community College, just outside of downtown Seattle in Washington State. I'm going to go through some of the major points about how great Shoreline is, programs, areas of study, reasons why students might want to choose a community college over a traditional four-year institution. And then obviously, please put those questions in the question area, and we'll definitely get to those at the end. I will leave a large portion of time today for questions. So please go ahead and make sure you have them, because I'll definitely get them answered. So I have a short presentation for today, and here we go. So when talking about colleges in the United States, there's lots of opportunities that come with them. With over 4,500 institutions of education in the United States at the higher education level, there's a lot to choose from. So why would you choose a community college over a traditional four-year institution, university, or college? There are a couple major reasons why students might do that here in the United States, but why for an international student? And the biggest thing where it comes down to is going to be that cost factor. Here in the United States, as everyone is aware, education is a very, very expensive part of a child's education experience, going on to that next level after high school, that post-secondary education, that bachelor's degree, that master's, that PhD. It's a very, very important educational step, but it's also a very, very expensive educational step in a student's progress. So what a community college offers students is a cost-effective way to start their bachelor's degree, to get to the end of that bachelor's, to start that master's program, to start their education in a way that's going to allow them to get into the schools they want to get into. So that cost factor, by coming to a community college, you're saving anywhere from 50 to 70% of a traditional four-year university. That could be upwards up to $80,000 saved in 2 years. That $80,000 could basically cover the cost of their entire education at a four-year institution by coming to a community college first. That's great and all. Money is obviously a large factor in many students' opportunities for education, but it's not everything. Graduate success is something that's very, very important for community colleges as well. So when it's applying to schools and students who are interested in Shoreline and community colleges in general, I always tell my students, apply to that dream school. Apply to the school you want to get into just to see if you can get in. See what opportunities for scholarship you can receive, and then we can talk about what opportunities that Shoreline can provide you that could be better. So I have students who come to me all the time saying, well, I really want to get into University of Michigan, Boston College, UCLA, University of Berkeley, Florida State. I really want to get into Austin, Texas, or University of Illinois, Champaign. And these are schools that are top ranked in the country and in the world. And students are like, I really want to go to these schools. I'm like, apply to those schools, get into those schools, see what scholarship opportunities you have. If you can afford them right away, why not go to them right away? And what a lot of students do is they'll apply to those schools. They may get in, they may get waitlisted, and they still can't go to them because of the cost, or they're looking for a little bit different of a program. And what I say is, come to Shoreline for 2 years, go through the program, do extremely well, and then transfer to that school, one, saving time, and two, possibly getting into the school they couldn't get into before. A lot of our students who finish the program at Shoreline and do very well in their classes are going to the University of Washington, are going to University of California School, Berkeley. They're going to UCLA, they're going to Boston College, they're going to University of Michigan, they're going to University of Texas in Austin. They're going to these top tier schools, but for the last 2 years instead of for all 4 years. And why students might choose that is because of that one-on-one personal attention. As an international student, coming into the educational sector here in the United States can be a daunting task. Everything's taught in English full time. We talk really quickly. We have words that you might not understand right away if you didn't learn here in the United States or a fully English system. So having a little bit more one-on-one attention can be very, very beneficial to an international student. So by coming to a school like Shoreline or a community college first, you get that small classroom setting. You have that professor in every single class. You don't have a graduate student teaching classes because we don't have graduate school here at Shoreline. So every classroom setting you're getting into is going to be one where the teacher and the professor is going to know the student's name. They're going to want to know the outcomes, what they're looking to do with their education. So you're getting the best type of education you can get for those first 2 years. Another reason why students might want to choose Shoreline or a community college first is kind of that fresh start idea. So what we're talking about when I'm talking about that fresh start is maybe a student didn't do super well in 1 or 2 classes during their secondary school, their high school, their O levels, their A levels. And they're like, well, I really wanted to go to University of California School, Berkeley in computer science, but I did really bad in some math, or I did really bad in the computer science courses in O levels, or I did really, really poorly in my English language, and I'm gonna have to go to, I can't, my IELTS aren't good enough, or my TOEFL wasn't good enough. My math placement wasn't good enough to get into the calculus course I need for engineering. And now you're going to be a year behind. You're going to be paying extra money to a tutor, or you're going to be going to a pathway program instead of college courses right away. And what Shoreline can provide students in those situations is a fresh start. As in, you come to Shoreline, no SAT required, no ACT required. We have an English program. We have a great start program where students can come to us and start over. So the classes you take at Shoreline are the classes you're going to use to apply to that transfer school. So when you're going to University of Michigan for their computer science program, or you're going to University of Purdue for their engineering program after Shoreline, they're not going to ask you for your ACT. They're not going to ask you for an ACT. They're not even going to ask you for your high school transcripts because they're not going to matter. By coming to Shoreline, you're actually going to use the classes that you've earned here. So your Calculus 1, your Calculus 2, your Computer Science, your Biology 1, your Chem 1, your basic microeconomics courses. Those classes are going to be the classes they're going to want to see and what grades you've earned when you transfer. So if you didn't do super well in your secondary education, or you didn't do well in your O levels or your IGCSEs, it won't matter once you start classes at Shoreline because you've already started college. The first 2 years are going to be completed, and those are the classes that the transfer schools are going to look at for admission. Other reasons that we always talk about why a community college is a huge benefit is the extra year of OPT you receive. So a lot of our international students are really interested in that opportunity to work and stay in the US after their education. And I'll get into this in a little bit more detail, but you actually earn 1 extra year of OPT when attending a community college. And that last thing that we always talk about is that equal degree. So there's this stigma out there that community colleges are a second-rate program. They're going to limit your education. They're not going to get you into the job you want to get into. And honestly, that is all a lie. And a lot of our large leaders and people and individuals that have been going on to do great things have actually attended community colleges. Our vice president here in the United States, huge advocate for community colleges. Our president's wife taught and attended community college. So you're not only seeing people who are very successful, but in our top leadership positions in the United States have attended and are huge advocates of community college. So the same degree that you're earning at Shoreline and then transferring on to your transfer school, that 4-year bachelor's degree, is the same degree that you would earn at any other 4-year institution, and if you started there for the first 2 years. So it's the same program, same degree, same classes, just at a smaller educational size and at a much less cost. So here at Shoreline specifically, these are the programs that we're offering students. So we have that 2+2 transfer, which is about 90% of our students are attending that. They're looking to come to Shoreline, save a little bit of money, then transfer on to their university to finish out their bachelor's degree. And that's great. It's a great program. 90% of our students do that. But we do have a high school completion program as well. And this one is a little bit harder to sell to the parents of our international students, but it's a great program for those students who are high achieving, looking to succeed early on. And I'll get into more of that program in a little bit. We do offer professional and technical degree programs as well. So this is for our students who might have completed their 2 years at Shoreline already, or maybe have already completed their bachelor's degree and are looking to get a promotion in their job or continue on in their education in a very specific field. We do have a full ESL and College Bridge program, so that student that might need a little bit extra support in their English, or maybe an individual who's coming to the United States for an MBA or a master's program and they need to take a specific courses and they need to learn their English a little better, they can come to our program and then transfer on to their MBA or master's program. And then we do have fully online learning. Obviously right now with the COVID pandemic, things are a little bit different in the educational sphere. So online learning has become much, much more prevalent educational program here in the United States and around the world. But one thing I always like to talk about, and I will mention a little bit later, is we've actually been doing fully online learning for over 10 years now. And it's not just new to us with the pandemic. We've been doing this full time for our students for a long time. So we've had a lot of experience in that sphere. So that 2+2, a little bit more information. Some of the numbers you're going to see is when you're looking at a bachelor's degree here in the United States, you're looking at a certain amount of credits you need to have to graduate from certain programs. Sometimes that's 120 credits, that's sometimes 150, sometimes 200 credits, depending on the program. So what our 2+2 transfer program allows students is they do 2 years at Shoreline, 2 years at their university of choice, and that completes their bachelor's degree. So here in the United States, all bachelor's degrees are 4 years. And what Shoreline does is just breaks it up into 2 separate segments of 2 and 2 to earn the amount of credits needed and the classes required to earn the bachelor's degree. So you're thinking, what kind of programs are offered at a community college? Probably limited, and that's not true at all. So we have over 90 different programs of study within our 2+2 transfer, anything from American studies and anthropology, architecture, to physical therapy and philosophy and music. We have nursing programs, we have exercise science and kinesiology. We are a full-fledged program allowing our students to really pick almost any program they want when they're transferring. Within our sciences, we have astronomy, biology, we have 8 different degrees in engineering, we have health science and pharmacy. I mentioned physical therapy, physics, zoology, oceanography. So we have a large array of programs that we offer here at Shoreline, which are allowing your students the opportunities they need to get into the top tier programs of their choice once they leave and progress past Shoreline. To put it a little bit further, here's kind of a cool little info here, a graphic about what the 2+2 looks like. So you do 2 years at Shoreline, and then those next 2 years, you can really go almost anywhere in the United States and sometimes other countries as well for that transfer degree. A lot of community colleges will talk about their transfer admission guarantees or like their signed partners within other universities across the United States. So Shoreline does this as well. And what a tag, we call them transfer admission guarantees, we call them tag programs. What they do is they're actually universities who have come to us, Shoreline Community College, to partner with us to get our students, once they graduate from their associates, so they're two years at a community college. We have over 30 different programs that have actually come to us and we've worked with in the past that have admission guarantees. And by what I mean by an admission guarantee is when you're admitted to Shoreline and you graduate with a specific GPA requirement, you're actually guaranteed admission into a school or a university to complete your bachelor's degree within a specific area. So we'll talk about, California State Chico, University of Iowa, University of Kentucky, Arizona State, Seattle University, University of Washington at Bothell, Northern Arizona, Washington State. These are very large name schools and highly ranked universities that have actually signed agreements to receive our students upon graduation. So when a student applies and gets admitted to Shoreline, they actually receive what we call a tag letter. And this is a letter directly from the university that they're choosing to transfer to. And they can actually use that when they go to the admissions office to get their visa, saying like, hey, I know I'm going to a community college. That might seem different because not a lot of students are doing this here in India or in Nigeria, or the idea might still be new to that visa officer or to the student or the partner that we're working with in specifics. But this letter is actually a signed letter from the admissions office of that university saying, hey, we are going to accept this student if they meet these requirements from Shoreline because we know they're good students. So you can take that to the visa office and say, hey, I'm going to Shoreline for 2 years, and then I'm going to transfer to the University of Washington State. And that's where I'm going to go to school. I have a program, I have an idea, and it's going to be a great program for me because I'm guaranteed admission into this school. That's fabulous. It's a great opportunity for students to show that pathway, that success rate where they're going to go. But I always like to talk about, you don't have to go to one of our tag programs. As I mentioned earlier, we have transferred students to many universities across the United States and parts of the world as well. And these are a list of some of the ones that we might not have tag agreements with, so transfer admission guarantees, but we transfer students to almost every single year. So we're talking schools such as Drexel, Boston University, UCLA, NYU, Indiana University at Bloomington, University of Michigan, University of Pittsburgh, large, highly ranked top 15, top 20 programs in the world that we're sending students to every single year. So that second point of success, that guaranteed student success, that's what I'm talking about here. With our 2+2 transfer program, students are able to go to top tier schools that they might have not been able to get into as a true undergraduate freshman. So students are taking the advantage of what a community college, specifically Shoreline, can do to get into those top tier schools. So I mentioned we do have an ESL College Bridge program. I won't go into too big of a detail because we can definitely talk to individual students who might need that at that time. But this is kind of our breakdown of our ESL program. We do have a bottom end, which is our English second language, our ESL program, where students really need a lot of support within their English, where they're taking full-time ESL programs. And then at the top end, which is kind of in that turquoisey green color, is what we call our English for Academic Purposes, our EAP program. And this program is allowing students to actually take English language courses and their college level academic courses at the same time. So that's kind of a great way for students to not have to go to a TOEFL school or an IELTS school. You know, they might be very good speakers and they can read really well, but maybe their writing is just a little bit more support at the college level. And that's where this comes into play. Quick testimonial from one of our students recently, a student from China, where actually came to us not speaking almost any English at all, and was able to take some ESL courses and then transfer on to the University of Michigan in sports management, where he actually just graduated this year. The other program I did kind of talk about, I'd mention a little bit more later, is our High School Completion Plus program. And this is a very unique program to the state of Washington. So out of all 50 states here in the United States, the state of Washington is the only state that actually currently runs this program for international and domestic students. So what it does is actually takes the traditional path of 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, bachelor's degree, 8 years of education, and actually condenses the program into 6 years. So what it does is actually allows students after grade 9 here in the United States equivalent and at the age of 16, they're able to actually come to the college, start their community college level courses, so their actual bachelor's degree level courses, and complete the next 2 years of high school at the same time. So you're doing 2 years of traditional high school, 2 years of community college, and then 2 years of university transfer to complete their bachelor's degree and their high school diploma. So instead of going to school and paying for 8 years of school, they're going to school for 6 years, completing their bachelor's, getting their high school diploma, and then moving on to a job or master's degrees early. So they're starting their educational paths at the same time, but they're completing it 2 years earlier, and then they're starting their work or their master's degrees at an earlier time to get them set up for a better future earlier on. So what you might be thinking there is, why would I send my student to college a little bit early, or how is this saving me money and time? Is this a good thing? And I can obviously tell you that it's a very, very good program that is allowing students to take college level courses, complete the Washington State diploma. So they're not getting a GED. They're not doing, a program where they're like taking college level courses in the high school ones on the side. Like, they're actually ingrained in the same program that allows students to really succeed within their high school diploma and their college level courses at the same time, preparing them for that university transfer the same. So as a great student that we had a couple years ago, Megan Lowe, she just graduated last year from the California School, Berkeley. She came to us from Hong Kong at the age of 16 in our high school completion plus program. She graduated from Shoreline at 18 with the first 2 years of her college completed with a diploma, from Washington State, and completed her schooling at Berkeley at the age of 20. So great opportunity for her to get on to the next level. She's actually taking her master's level courses starting this fall, because she used the year of her OPT to get some great work experience. So it's a great opportunity for students to get into school early, get a great education, and start their educational paths at the master's level earlier, or start to apply for jobs at an earlier time. The other program that I'm going to talk about today is our professional and technical degree programs. And this is a program that a lot of students are using as a post-bachelor's or post-master's level program to not only get a head up in their education, but also possibly in their career as well. So we have students who are coming to us at the bachelor's level, like who've done biology, or they've done environmental science, or they've done computer science, and they're looking for that next step that might not be a master's degree, but they're looking for something really specific within an educational or career path area. So one I always talk about is our MIDI music production. So our digital programming, our visual communication technology, our music technology programs are great here at Shoreline, and we have students coming to us from all around the world specifically for these programs. And why I talk about these ones specifically is because you don't see these types of programs at the bachelor's level. You might take a course or two within these areas, but our digital audio engineering programs, our music technology, merchandising, and performance, this is a specific program where students actually come to campus, work within our sound labs, and are getting specific hands-on educational and professional skills to take to the workforce. So we might have students who was doing audio engineering, or they were doing music production in their bachelor's degree. They want to go work in Hollywood, or they want to work on editing movies or animation. And what we offer them is a very specific education where they get very hands-on, career-based skills that can get them a job, get them a promotion, or get them into a specific career path they want to be into. We have programs such as dental hygiene that students are able to do. We have a nursing school on campus. And then we also have different programs within biotechnology and purchasing and supply chain management. So there's lots of options in this area, but these can be short-term programs, maybe 1 year, could be 9 months, could be 2 years, depending on what the student's looking for and what kind of certification they're trying to receive. So I did mention earlier, we do have programs that are very specific and correlated to the pandemic. And that first option we're going to talk about is that hybrid option. So obviously students right now from all over the world are kind of in flux of, do I take classes from home, from online? Those are the courses that I want to have an opportunity to do fully in person. Is it safe? Vaccines? Am I allowed to? Can I travel? There's so many questions when it comes to international education and just travel right now, that this is what Shoreline is offering our students. So we're offering a hybrid option where they're actually taking courses both online and in person here in the US. So our option one is going to be that study in the US. So you're going to come to the US for a great education. You're going to be on Shoreline's campus a couple days a week, but you're also going to taking classes in person with mask requirements, with social distancing, but then you're also going to be taking some of your courses online as well. So that's what that hybrid is. You're taking some in person and some online to get that education. So we're able to offer I-20s. We're able to allow students to apply for their F1 visas, come to the United States, get a great education, both online and in person. Then the second option that we're offering is going to be that fully online learning. And this is kind of a program that when the pandemic started was our only option. So every student was kind of interested, or they kind of put their time off saying, I'll wait for the pandemic to be over. That was 18 months ago. So that was a long time ago. And now students are like, okay, maybe I need to take online courses, and we're still offering that option. And the thing that I always like to talk about when it comes to the online area is, for us, it's not going to go away. We've been doing this for a decade now. So if a student wants to take online classes and complete their program here at Shoreline for 2 years online, and then maybe transfer to the university of their choice and come in person, they can do that, saving themselves a lot more money, even than they're already going to as a traditional community college student. So the one thing I always talk about here, and we'll get into a little bit more cost later, is the cost of living in the United States is pretty expensive. So if a student is interested in money is a very high factor of why they want to choose a community college. Taking classes online for a quarter or two, or even a full year, or even the full 2 years can be very, very cost effective. You're still going to get into all the classes you want into. You're still going to transfer to the top tier schools that you're looking to, as all of your credits, either online or in person, are going to be seen as the same. So taking classes online from India could be, or Nigeria could be a great option for students right now to save some money and get into the classes they still need to get into. I get the question all the time as well. Right now it's 5 o'clock probably in the evening for you, maybe 4:30 depending on the time. For me, I had to wake up at 3:30 a.m. to get on this call. I started at 4 a.m. We might be done about 5:15, and I'm probably going to go back to bed. But the one thing I would talk about is Shoreline offers their classes asynchronously, so students do not have to worry about that time change. Classes are going to be recorded. They can be done live, but they can take the classes when it best fits them. So they don't have to worry about waking up at a specific time. They don't have to start changing their internal clocks to be working at classes at one time, going back to bed during when everyone else is awake, and kind of being in that weird time zone flux. By offering classes that we do here at Shoreline asynchronously, they're able to take the classes that best fits them. So we've had students who've been taking classes online in the evening, working in their family store, or taking a job, or enjoying their life before taking classes, and they can kind of make their schedule their own. So it's a really, really great opportunity for students to make their education on their time that best fits them and the cost they can save. So online is still a very viable option right now, but we know students are really interested in that hybrid option, which we're able to do for as well. One thing that many community colleges don't have that Shoreline does is an honors college. It's a very small class, so up to 20 students that we are able to cap at per year. But what that program allows students to do is take some more additional courses. They're normally short-term courses that are very specific based on research or career-driven opportunities. So students have a leg up on a lot of students when it comes to the honors college. There is a separate application, and if your students are interested in taking classes at the honors college, we can talk about that opportunity at that time. So I've talked a lot about community college, the courses that we offer, but why Shoreline specifically? What does Shoreline have to offer that other community colleges in the Seattle area or across the United States have to offer? So one thing we normally don't like to talk about is rankings, because sometimes rankings can be frivolous and they might not really mean too many things. But one thing that is very stats driven that Shoreline likes to talk about is the fact that we are in the top 20 community colleges out of almost 1,500, 1,500 community colleges for international student population. This is not a statistic that you can kind of make up or as a fashion statement or a location-based program or ranking. This is hard data that we are very, very excited to say that out of almost 1,500 community colleges, we have the 17th largest international population out of any community college in the country. So there are only 16 other community colleges in the entire country that have a larger international population than Shoreline. And that's something to really talk about because we are located outside of a mid-sized city, Seattle, Washington. We are in a very interesting geographical place in our country. And out of all the places you hear about, New York, Texas and Houston, or Chicago, or LA, San Francisco, like your big hitting cities, your large business cities, you think, wow, those are going to be where a lot of our students want to go. But when you think about it in the end, Shoreline Community College, just outside of downtown Seattle, has larger populations than many of those community colleges in those cities. So obviously we're doing something right. Students are wanting to come to Shoreline Community College, and it's for a lot of great reasons. One, I mentioned, is our location. Seattle's not a big city. It's about 700,000 people within the Seattle area, like the city itself, but within the greater population of Seattle, we're talking about 3.5 million people. We are minutes from the ocean. We are a half-hour to 45-minute drive from some of the largest mountain ranges in the country. We have great businesses that are headquarters right downtown Seattle, 15-minute drive from campus. Seattle is a booming area, and students know that. So they're wanting to come to area, and they want to be going to a college that is either in the city or really close to the city. And they don't want to have to worry about driving in to get to internships or to see the city and have that college experience. So that's why Shoreline is so nice. Out of all the community colleges that are located in the Seattle area, we are the second closest to the actual city that's not downtown. So there are schools that students might be talking about or thinking like, oh, wow, like I really want to go to the state of Washington. It's kind of near Seattle. But you might be 2 hours away. You might be an hour drive away from the city. We are 15 minutes from downtown. From where I live, I can walk to downtown and I can walk to campus. I ride my bike to work when it was open, and I can walk to downtown. So it is a very, very close college to the downtown area. So you get both the nice 83-acre campus that we had that's very wooded, but you're also minutes from downtown. So you have both atmospheres when it comes to Shoreline and our location. As I mentioned, our campus, here's a great picture of a part of our campus. It's a very beautiful 83-acre wooded campus. Our buildings are in kind of a Japanese pagoda style. So all the doors actually open to the outside. So there's no long hallways. You're gonna be like, students are gonna be like walking through, like once you are outside your classroom, you're actually outside in nature. So it's a really cool campus, has that kind of outdoor indoor space, which is really nice. So all the windows, almost every single classroom has a window to the outside. So you have that really, really inviting college atmosphere. We have great facilities. Looks like my screen sharing stopped real quick. I apologize for that. Looks like that closed. So I was kind of showing some pictures of the campus and how that kind of displayed. So we have great arts, we have great theaters and opportunities that come along with your normal college campus. So some people are always kind of interested about like, okay, if I'm going to go to a community college, what does that look like for me? Is it going to have the same opportunities that I might get at a four-year institution? And absolutely. We have over 60 clubs and organizations here at Shoreline. We have opportunities for students to participate in arts and sciences that they might not be able to get into if they were going to a larger college university because the size difference. So when students are looking at going to, you know, like being a computer science student, like, well, I'm really interested in like art still too. Like you can do both. Take classes within your engineering courses or your computer science, and you still have that opportunity to participate in their hobbies as an academics or just for fun. So if you can pull up 1 second, I do have my screen share back up. So I was kind of showing the arts here. So we have a lot of 3D art, but we also have 2D art and digital design as well for students to participate in. We have a huge music and theater production program. So I was kind of mentioning some of our MIDI music production and performance. This is Jinhee, one of our alumni who actually now works on the campus and teaches some of our classes and our production programs here. We have great sound studios. So if you have any students who are interested in like music production or audio engineering or recording, Shoreline has a fabulous program for those areas. And then we also have a great science and lab area. So when you think about community colleges, you're thinking of facilities. What opportunities do my students have to get into great programs? And what I can tell is Shoreline has some of the best facilities I've seen, even at larger institutions. And our students' classroom sizes are about 18, even less students per class. So when your students are coming to campus and they're actually taking classes with Shoreline, they're not going to get lost in the hustle and bustle of a 200, 100, 50-person classroom because we don't have those classes. The picture on the far left, that's actually our machine and robotics lab. We actually have robotics labs here at Shoreline. So labs where students are actually able to come in as freshmen, first year course level, and actually have accessibility to the robotics lab, participate in designing, building, and writing code for our robots to do specific things, which is really good for our supply chain management, our engineering courses. That center picture there is actually a picture of our old dental hygiene. We're in the process of actually building a brand new dental hygiene and manufacturing suite here on campus. So some of these labs that you might see on here might be different in 2 years from now. And one cool thing I can actually talk about with our dental hygiene program I was just announced is within our dental hygiene program, we used to host it directly on our campus, but we've actually partnered with the University of Washington with their dental hygiene program. So students who are admitted to Shoreline Community College are actually taking classes at the University of Washington in their dental hygiene facility and their dental hygiene classes, but they're paying the Shoreline costs. So you're actually getting a University of Washington education for 60% less by coming to Shoreline. And that's something that Shoreline's offering students at different programs. Our architecture program, same thing. You're taking actual University of Washington level courses at the University of Washington, but you're paying the Shoreline costs. So you're saving so much money and getting a great education at the University of Washington, a top 20 program in the world. So it's a fabulous connection that we have with the University of Washington that Shoreline students have the capability to do. And then that student life section. Obviously with the pandemic, things are going to be a lot different when it comes to student life, but with our campus reopening and more classes are being offered in person these days, athletics are back on campus, you're going to get that opportunity to really enjoy the student life aspects of Shoreline. So like I mentioned earlier, we are very close to the downtown area. You have opportunities to many, many corporations, living outside, experiencing the college life. And this is a picture of the Seattle city skyline. So we have a couple arrows on there. You're pointing to the Space Needle, kind of an important architectural feat here in Seattle that students have the opportunity to go visit. But then you also have a picture of Mount Rainier in the background. This is one photo. This is how close we are to a major mountain range. And then just to the right here of that kind of triangle building at the bottom, there is the Puget Sound, which is based off of the Pacific Ocean. We have orca whales that are swimming through there many months out of the year. So you have this great city minutes away from our campus that students have the accessibility to go to. This is a picture of Mount Rainier National Park. I hike there all the time. It's not that far of a drive. Students have the accessibility to do that. We have a hiking, climbing, and outdoorsing club that allows students to the safety and the knowledge to go out and do those types of activities. This is Olympic National Park. This is just across the Puget Sound, one of the most beautiful national parks I've been to in the United States. But outside of like the great opportunities you have just like geographically here in the Seattle area, Seattle is one of the fastest growing markets when it comes to business and technology in the entire country. When you think of like technology and engineering, computer software, you think what? Silicon Valley. You're thinking San Francisco. You're thinking just downtown, like, that area. But I can attest, as I go to San Francisco all the time, that Seattle has one of the fastest growing and is probably going to overpass the Silicon Valley when it comes to tech in the near future. Headquarters of Amazon, Microsoft moved here. Facebook is slowly moving out here. Samsung has a headquarters here. You have Nordstrom, Starbucks was created, founded, and headquartered here. Expedia, Alaskan Airlines, T-Mobile. Some huge international corporations are headquartered right here in Seattle, Washington. So jobs are of aplenty, opportunity aplenty, technology, communication are huge. And our students have the accessibility and the connections from Shoreline to get into these corporations. And that leads us right into our OPT. So as I mentioned earlier, I'll talk a little bit about the OPT, and this is what I meant. So when a student finishes their 2 years at Shoreline, their associate's degree, they actually earn a full year, 12 months of OPT from their graduation from a community college. So what students, not many of our students, but a lot of our students will look into is doing that year of OPT. And some will do the 12 months and they'll do a full year. Some will do, 6 months or whatever it takes to get to the fall for their intake for their transfer university. But it allows them time to actually apply, do an internship, get paid, and gain experience here in the United States at a full-fledged organization that students are doing. So a lot of our students are looking to stay in the Seattle area after they graduate for their year of OPT, and they're working at Amazon. They're working at Samsung. They're working at Microsoft and Facebook and getting those very, very hard jobs to get and those internship opportunities because of their education here at Shoreline. And then they'll go on and get their transfer degree, and then they'll come back to the Seattle area and actually complete their 1 or 3 more years of OPT, depending if they took a STEM course or not. And that's how important the Seattle area is to the United States. So we have students who will go to NYU, and they'll go there for their tandem school of engineering. They'll go there for their amazing computer science or their business programs. And they're like, yeah, I'm in New York City. I had these great opportunities. And then when we talk to our alum after, like, yeah, I did my year of OPT at Amazon. And like, you were in New York. Why did you come back to Seattle? It's because the job market in Seattle is great. The opportunities are great. And I found a home at Shoreline. So students come back to Seattle from Chicago. They come back to Seattle from New York or Atlanta. And they're like, we had such an amazing experience at Shoreline that they knew what a great opportunity. They wanted to work here in Seattle, and if they possibly could, stay here longer and get their degrees and do their master's program at UW or what have you. And like, Seattle is such a great city that students are coming back to us all the time and saying, I wish I would have gone to University of Washington, or I wish I could have stayed at Shoreline longer because of the opportunities that we provided them. Great story for this is one of our students from Kazakhstan. She actually now is actually working at Microsoft in Silicon Valley. But she came to us out of Kazakhstan, did her 2 years at Shoreline, did 8 months of OPT at T-Mobile, transferred to the University of Washington, and then got a full-time paying job outside of her university at T-Mobile and got her H-1B. And now she actually changed from T-Mobile, now, as I mentioned, working at Microsoft. So obviously this is just one student's success story, and we have hundreds of these success stories every single year. So it's an opportunity to kind of show off our students, but kind of shows you the opportunities that students are getting from Shoreline as well. So that 2+2 transfer I was talking about, people are kind of second guessing it. Is it good? Is it real? Is it viable for both getting into a good university and a good job? And I can 100% attest to our student success, that it is a great, very, very good possibility that students who come to Shoreline and do well and then transfer on to good programs will get very, very good jobs upon graduation. And the main reason why students have that success is our international student advisors. So we have 4 full-time advisors on our campus that are strictly working with our international students from day one of them at orientation, registering for classes, to their last day upon graduation. These advisors are here for your students, support them through their academic careers and past that as well. So they are working with them for registering for classes, keeping them on track for their specific program, keeping them on track for their intended international students when they're intending to transfer into their colleges and universities, and then also career advice. These advisors have been through it all. They have master's degrees, some have PhDs, some have gone to top tier schools, some were community college students themselves. These 4 advisors have so much experience and so much know-how that they can really help your students get into the programs and the universities they want. We have 60 clubs and organizations on campus. So when it comes to that student life aspect, there are plenty of opportunities. Students are able to work on campus on their F1 visas for up to 20 hours per week. So you have that opportunity to work, get a little extra spending money in the student's pocket, but also get that work experience here in the United States. It can be very different than working in India or Nigeria. So having that opportunity to be able to work on campus can be very important. As I mentioned, athletics, these are our school-sponsored teams that we have on campus. So many of our students do come to us and have the opportunity to want to play a sport, and we were able to offer that as well. And sometimes, depending on how good the athlete is and if the coach needs a specific position, there actually are opportunities for athletic scholarships as well. So written on the last couple slides here, and these are when the really hard-hitting questions normally get answered. We're going to talk about cost, timelines, and housing. So we have 4 intakes here at Shoreline per year. So we're on a quarter system. So not the traditional 2 semesters a year. We have 4 quarters that we offer per year. This was last year's model here. So our winter, spring, summer, obviously we're going into our fall soon in a couple months. But students are able to do 4 different intakes per year. So that actually breaks down their classes into a more manageable per quarter. So instead of taking 5 or 6 classes per semester, they're taking 2, 3, or 4 classes a quarter that are only going for 10 to 12 weeks at a time. So instead of trying to take computer science course, an engineering course, a math course, and a literature or history course all at the same time, trying to get that all in the student's brain all at once, they're taking only a couple of courses, which makes it more manageable for students to take classes, but also gives students the ability to start when fits them best. So we have students who come to us during the spring saying, I wasn't prepared. I was still going through the application process, going through the visa process for the winter quarter, and I couldn't do that. Now I have to wait all the way until next fall. Here at Shoreline, we have 2 intakes between winter and fall to take courses. So students are able to start when they need to, if it's them best. As I mentioned, housing, we have 3 different options for housing on campus, or on campus, off campus, and then we have a homestay option that students are able to go to. We always say that they should be living in the residence hall if they can, not required, but the cost and the opportunity that our residence hall offers is very, very good. It's all suites, so every room has a kitchen, a full bathroom or 2, and living room and bedrooms. So we have 4-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and studio-style suite apartments. Everything is included in the cost. So when you're talking about Wi-Fi, water, sewage, electricity, heat, air conditioning, all of that is included in the cost of the room per month, and you pay them by a month. So a lot of schools, they're going to ask for the food, the housing, and tuition all up front. You're going to pay in 2 different, or like a meal plan. Here at Shoreline, we do not require students to pay for everything up front. For tuition, they pay per credit hour that they're currently registered for. So that's generally 3 or 4 times they're going to pay a year, breaking that cost down. And then for housing, you actually pay monthly. So you're not going to pay for an entire quarter or entire semester up front. You pay per month you live there, just like you normally would with rent. So it's a great option for one, to break down that cost, but also it's a very good cost saving opportunity. Housing on campus isn't very expensive compared to the area. So you're getting a good cost, and it's brand new. Housing just opened in 2019 and allows students a new living experience, fully furnished apartments at a great cost. The other 2 options are going to be off campus. So students are able to live in a house or an apartment near campus, and they can do that with roommates or with family if they have family in the area. So good savings there. I will say that if a student is going to live off campus, that they find a roommate or 2, because living in the Seattle area by yourself can be very expensive. And then we have a homestay option. And this is where a student is actually able to live in a home of a local family here in Shoreline. Or in the Seattle area that's close to campus. And these families are vetted not only by the college, but also by other background institutions. That's why we work with these 3 companies that are listed on the screen specifically. So allowing students the opportunity to live locally, cheaply, have some meals cooked for them, and have that kind of tour guide sensation when they come here, having that family aspect here. I do want to point out with our high school completion students, if they do come to us at age 16 and have not turned 17 by the time they're going to be living in the residence hall, they are unable to live there. You have to be at least 17 years of age when you move in to the residence hall. So if we have a student who's 16 looking to come for the high school completion program, the homestay option is a very, very good option and the one that we offer. So cost, obviously this is going to be a very, very big important part here. Our tuition per year for full credits is going to be about $9,600. So that's about 45 credits. That's what you're going to see, generally speaking, no matter where you're going to a university, about 45 credits, 40 to 45 credits per academic year. And we're less than $10,000 for tuition, with fees and estimated books for about $10,500, $600, depending on how expensive your books are going to be. And then the cost of living, health insurance, and other expenses is about $10,000 as well. So you're looking for a full year of academics, housing, food, everything, about $20,000. And that's a very, very good cost for here in the United States. Most tuition payments are going to be more than that, and that's not even including room and board. So one thing I always talk about when it comes to like scholarships and cost of, college and things like that, Shoreline is a scholarship in itself. By coming to Shoreline, we are going to be less than probably 75 to 80% of all colleges you're ever even going to think about, even with their best scholarships. There are obviously going to be schools out there that offer a couple full rides a year, or you're going to get a fabulous scholarship that might bring it down to that $20,000 section. But that's after some of their best scholarships. This is Shoreline, full cost, no scholarship options, no athletic scholarships, no merit-based scholarships. This is what Shoreline costs. And it is a fabulous price for an education here in the United States. As a quick comparison to some of the schools that I mentioned our students are transferring to or looking at getting into, University of Washington, UCLA, Berkeley, NYU are all well over $50,000 a year. And many of those schools do not offer international student scholarships. So the graph speaks for itself. I won't stay here too long, but I just want to show the cost comparison of traditional schools that students are looking to get into and the cost of Shoreline. I did mention merit-based scholarships before. We do have a $500 merit-based scholarship that all students who apply and are admitted to Shoreline are automatically considered for, so there's no separate application needed. We only offer about 12 of these a year because we do fund these out of our budget. So it's not like we're getting a bunch of money that is make-believe money somewhere, because if you look at it, a lot of universities, I've worked at two previously, a lot of their admission scholarships are kind of interesting in how they work. So you have this cost. It's going to be $40,000 for tuition. Housing is $15,000. So you're paying $55,000 a year for a full cost of tuition and room and board. And all of a sudden you receive a $20,000 scholarship and you're like, that's awesome. That's so much money. But in the end, that money actually really isn't there. It's just a break in your cost of like tuition. The reason why a lot of schools have such high tuition costs is because they play this game of, well, I'm going to have my tuition be super, super expensive, and then I'm going to offer students scholarships because it's a discount. It looks great. But really, if we didn't offer these enormously large scholarships to students, our tuition would be $20,000 instead of $40,000. But we know we're going to give every student, or almost all of our students, $20,000 or $25,000 in scholarship. So we're just going to make ourselves more expensive and then just say we're going to give them a scholarship. But in the end, they're going to pay the exact same. And that's honestly how scholarships work here in the United States for a lot of schools. I know that could be a shock to some people, but as someone who's worked at many private and public institutions here in the United States, that's literally how they work. A lot of the private schools will just make their prices really, really expensive and just say they're going to give these huge scholarships to students because it sounds better to receive a scholarship. And that's literally the game of private scholarships. Sounds weird, but it's the truth. So what Shoreline does is we just keep our costs low. We do offer some scholarships, but every student is going to have a scholarship because of just we keep our costs so low. And that's why Shoreline is such a great option for students when it comes to cost savings. Last little point here I like to talk about is just that ESL College Bridge. Obviously, students need to meet an English requirement to take classes in the United States, and these are where we sit with our college passing courses here. So to become ESL exempt, for students not to have to take ESL courses, they need to have a 70 or higher in the TOEFL with a writing score of 20 or higher. And in the IELTS, they need to have a 5.5 overall band with a 6.0 in the writing section or higher. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. We do take a lot of other exams. So if students in the Cambridge program and they take an IGCSE or O-level or A-levels, if they have a C or better in their English language, first language, they can test out the English program as well. So there are different ways to do that. So we can talk to M Square or myself, and we can kind of talk about what programs and opportunities we offer. But these are some of the basics, straightforward numbers when it comes to being ESL exempt. And that's it for the presentation. I know that's a ton of information. So hopefully there's a lot of questions we can get to. I always like to point out here that to get in touch with us, we have a lot of great options when it comes to our social media. Our students are posting on there. We are posting on there as the college. We do a lot of great opportunities when it comes to just program updates, things like that. So please go ahead and follow us on social media. We're trying to build for our students so they have a better platform to post their stories and things like that. So the more people we have following us, the more opportunities we have for student interactions and opportunities for our students. So we're going to go into questions here. So I do thank you for your time today, for listening this evening, and hopefully I'll get all of your questions answered in the next couple time here. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for that. I think it was a very in-depth, understanding of Shoreline as Shoreline College, with each and everything that you have covered. I think it's really nice. Moving on to our questions, we have a couple of questions that have come from our agents around, requirements about English proficiency in specific programs is something that has come. So they would like to understand if, depending upon the program that the students opt for, is there anything, would it be the same English requirement or would it vary? I think that's one of the questions that has come in.
Yeah, great question. So here at the college, all of our classes are taught within the same sphere of education background. So all TOEFL, IELTS, PTE scores, IGCSEs, O-levels have the same requirement. So specifically speaking, like if you're trying to take a engineering course, you're trying to take a history course or kinesiology, no matter what course you choose at Shoreline, the same English requirements are going to be throughout.
Perfect. Moving on to the next question that we have a question, will Shoreline help us with the TAG admission, tag admission?
Correct. So good question. So how that works is when a student wants to pick one of our tag schools, we obviously tell every student to pick a tag school in our current list to apply with. So when you apply, you can pick like, oh, do you want to have a tag program? We always tell all our students, say yes. Pick one of the schools that we have with. You don't have to go to that school. It's just kind of that first initial school that you're like, oh, I'm interested in Arizona State, or I'm interested in University of Washington at Bothell. And this allows you the opportunity to have a pathway. So when you go to your visa appointment, you can explain to the visa counselor saying, hey, I know I'm going to a community college. That might sound weird because you probably don't get a lot of those all the time, or it's not as well prevalent in India or Nigeria, but I have a plan, and this is my plan. I'm doing 2 years at Shoreline. I already have admission to the University of Arizona or University of Iowa. By getting this GPA, which I tell you I'm going to get, I have my program, I'm going to go there. That could be true at the time. And by the time you get to Shoreline, you're like, oh, you know what? I really want to do engineering now, and I want to go to Purdue. That's awesome. We'll still support you, and we'll send you to Purdue when you get your grades. So that tag agreement is just an opportunity to show you, like, I already have admission into a university, but that doesn't have to be the only university you have to choose from. You have all the schools in the United States to choose from, but we will support you no matter where you want to go to get you into that school.
Perfect. All right, Andrew, there's one more question around, what's happening with the current grades that are coming in. Students are still, having from India, CBSE grades have not come in the equation, the evaluation and all of it. There is a little bit of delay. So what would you recommend at this point of time if students are aspiring to apply to Shoreline Community College? How do they go about it?
Absolutely. So that's been a huge struggle for students, not only in India or Nigeria, but literally the entire world. Final exams have been canceled all across the globe. ACT and SAT stopped offering tests here in the United States for a long time. So students have been like, I don't have a college entry exam. I don't have my final grades. What do I do? Doesn't matter with Shoreline. The cool thing about our program, the fact that we have a high school completion program, is you technically don't need to graduate from high school or your secondary school to come to Shoreline. And that kind of sounds weird. And a lot of students are like, well, I want to graduate. I want to get my diploma from the school I'm currently at, but I haven't finished my final exams yet. They're not being offered this year. What do I do? Still apply to Shoreline. We do not need your final exams to admit you to Shoreline. And we actually don't even need them to have you start classes. So the cool thing about how our program works is no matter where you're at in your educational sphere, if you're 16 years of older and you've completed at least 1 or 2 years of high school, you can start classes at Shoreline just as if you had completed your final exam. So right now, with many of our students not being able to take their final exams, that will in no way hinder their opportunities for admission or scholarship.
We'll take one last question, right? And that would be around how is it flexible if a student wants to go in for a STEM program? Is there any barrier when he comes from a different background, or are we flexible with the admission process is what the question is being asked.
Absolutely. So how we work with students who are coming from, like, if they're in their A-level programs or they're in their O-level programs and they didn't do the STEM background, they didn't do the computer science background, they didn't do engineering, and they're like, but I want to do that. Like, how do I do that? It won't hinder them at all. It won't affect their application. So we have many students who come to us and they did engineering and they're like, I am done with math. I do not want to see another equation in my life. And they want to do something completely different. That's great. We'll take them for their program and vice versa. We have students who come to us and they're like, I didn't take my final maths in my O levels, but I really want to become a computer science student, or I really want to be an engineer, or I want to be in kinesiology or clean energy technologies or something. And that's great. We have a math placement exam students can take, and if they don't have a math score to show us where they're at, they can just take that math placement exam. We'll place them in the appropriate area, and they can take it no matter what they get on that score. We've had students who have only taken and tested into algebra, and they'll take 1 year of algebra, trigonometry at Shoreline. They'll take calculus 1 the next quarter, then calculus 2 the next quarter, and then calculus 3, and then they're ready for their engineering course at university. So we have students from all different types of backgrounds and knowledge bases do the programs they want to do at Shoreline, because we have the classes in the small professor-based programs that are going to be allowing them to succeed within any program area.
I think we have a lot of questions that are coming around application process and scholarship. So because of time constraint, we'll take these few questions, and obviously all of you can post all your questions, and I will send you out in our chat box how you can reach out. So Dipanshi is our application representative and admission representative for Shoreline Community College at MSM. So all questions I will share her details in the chat box, and you can reach out to us, right? So Andrew, we would like you to just address the closing line for the webinar.
Yeah, so I see this a couple of questions on here that I can answer really, really quickly. Age limit is 16. So students have to be 16 years of older by the time they start classes to take classes at Shoreline. And then other scholarship opportunities, we have that 500 merit-based scholarship that I mentioned, and athletics, and that's it. That's all we offer here at Shoreline. So if students need additional scholarships, they're going to have to be outside of the college. But we can kind of talk about that. And also our advisors do help students find scholarships for their transfer schools as well. So it's not only like for scholarships on campus, but also for their university transfer. No quarantine is required on campus right now. So students do not have to quarantine when they come, and we do not require vaccines currently either. So that's for like the COVID type questions. But for closing right now, Shoreline is a fabulous school. Like I've mentioned earlier, I've worked at other institutions, larger, both private and public, large four-year universities, and now I work at a community college. And someone was asking me, like, why did you go from like the university four-year level, like international education to a community college? And for me, it wasn't that hard of a choice because Shoreline has an enormous international population. They have a great program area and they offer an amazing education. So just because a college or university offers that four-year direct path doesn't mean it's the best education a student can receive. Shoreline offers an amazing education for students who are looking for an opportunity for small classroom sizes, a more inexpensive opportunity, and a great start to their bachelor's degree to get them into that university that they want to get into. So I know community colleges might be new. They might not be as well known as some other schools, but please tell your students of the opportunities at Shoreline Community College because we can offer students an amazing opportunity for their education and to start their life on an amazing path for a great career in their future.
Thank you so much for that, Andrew. And yes, I think there are so many. I think there are n number of opportunities if a student joins Shoreline, and that's really good, affordable. It's quite in the city, and there's so much of opportunity. So yes, I think our agents will take it back, and we have been receiving a lot of applications for Shoreline, and I'm sure in the future also we'll keep receiving. Thank you so much for your time. Right, I would like to. We at Shoreline are, at MSM are very, very happy to have partnered with Shoreline. And for all those agents who are viewing this recording and who will be viewing this in the future as well, please do have a look at the recording. We'll come up with a lot of webinars with Shoreline Community College, and we request you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, on LinkedIn, and for all the updates on our upcoming webinars that we will be posting. And you can reach us on our website as well, which is www.msquaremedia.com. Thank you so much for participating for today's webinar. Thank you once again, and we will meet soon. Thank you.